Last night on the program, we spent a lot of time taking a look at the shooting death by police in West Philadelphia of Walter Wallace. And tonight we have some more to talk about, some more work to do related to that story, the legal issues involved in the case. So we're going to take some time to do that right now. And this is a case that it's about what happened to Walter Wallace, but it's also about the reaction to what happened to Walter Wallace. And of course, in Philadelphia, demonstrations again last night, and you've got a mixed bag. You've got some demonstrations that are peaceful. You can take a look at them. We can take a look at them right now and see what folks were doing. But unfortunately, not all the demonstrations or the people who are out in the streets are doing what these folks are doing. You've got others, and we've seen the images, burning and rioting and looting, violence, throwing things, attacking police. It's a difficult situation. And these stories now, in the new world that we're living in, are not just localized. Because when something happens in Philadelphia, it can impact communities around the country. So the shooting takes place in West Philly, and most of those protests and riots were in the West Philly part. Then they went into other parts of Philly, and then last night things spilled over, way over, into Brooklyn, New York. Our affiliate, WPIX, has more for us.
Protests turned to destruction in downtown Brooklyn overnight. Fires were set, businesses and bank windows busted out, and police vehicles vandalized in New York after Philadelphia police shot and killed Walter Wallace Jr. Monday. They say the 27-year-old was armed with a knife while responding to a domestic incident. Wallace also was suffering from mental illness, according to his family.
The officers who did not have less than lethal options on their gun belt obviously had only one option to turn to, and that was to execute a death sentence on Mr. Wallace.
The man's father calling for calm amid the unrest sweeping through his city and now New York.
It's not going to solve anything. It's just going to make things worse.
The NYPD mobilizing and making mass arrests after violence and vandals left a trail of shattered glass and spray paint across Atlantic Avenue and Borum Place to Livingston Street. And then
New York City Police Department. This assembly is unlawful. You are ordered.
Police tried stopping a driver who witnesses said fueled the unrest before she sped away past the police line, possibly injuring an officer's leg.
And these stories are incredibly tragic and sad. Especially you begin with Walter Wallace and his family, right? Incredible tragedy. And then you take a look at all the other impacts of this incident, this shooting on the streets of Philly, the way it has impacted other cities and continues to impact the relationship that police have with the community that they're attempting to protect and serve. And this conversation is continuing, and it will continue. Let's bring in Michael Ayala and Julie Grant, CourtTV anchors, who are with us tonight to talk about this. Michael, let's start a little bit with the officers involved here. What do we know about the officers that responded to this call?
I just want to say quickly, I grew up 10 minutes from where that happened in Brooklyn, so it just breaks my heart that that's going on there. But anyway, as far as the officers are concerned, right now we don't know very much. Their names are being withheld. They're on desk duty. We do know that they did have body cameras on at the time, and the police commissioner did say today that they're going to be released shortly, so we could see those videos very soon. We do know there are investigations going on. There's investigations by the police internally and also by the DA's office. And actually, the DA, Larry Krasner, had this to say about their investigation. He said that the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office takes its obligation to be fair and to seek even-handed justice seriously. Just a quick note about Larry Krasner. He was a defense attorney, Vinny, for years, for a long time in Philadelphia, very well respected. My understanding is he even sued the police department over 75 times. He ran on a progressive ticket in 2017, made it to the DA's office. So he's someone that probably you can take seriously about this.
Yeah, and Julie, that's the other part of this, right? You know, there's the direct impact on Walter Wallace, him obviously, right, but his family as well. And then the impact on the officers who are responding and doing their job. I mean, it's a different kind of job being a police officer. I mean, I come to work every day, and I don't think that when I go home, anything I did here is going to be investigated. And now it seems for every officer, that is now part of the job.
Right, Vinny. We're just in, it just seems like uncharted territory here. The last few months and the cases we've seen and the unrest and everything and every action having a reaction and then crimes being committed. I mean, peacefully protesting a cause is one thing, but to riot and to assault other people is quite another. And so certainly our hearts go out tonight to the Wallace family. No parents deserve to bury a child. We know that he's leaving behind a family who loved him very much, and our hearts go out to them, certainly. Any life that lost is very, very sad. The other component to this is certainly the police lives here that are being affected. Since this happened on Monday, 30 officers have been assaulted by rioters. And don't we just heard in that piece, we heard from Walter Wallace's father and saying to stop this, that this isn't going to solve anything. And he's right. If people want to affect meaningful change, if people want to do more to affect the way mental health is treated in our country, to help with resources for the police, then they should do it in a dignified manner and think about ways that we as a society can diffuse domestic violence situations, because domestic violence situations like that one the Philadelphia police got called to at Walter Wallace Jr.'s house, those are among the deadliest calls that police officers can get, Vinny. You know that. We've talked about that on the show before, and I really can't stress that enough. And most of the time, those fatalities, they happen out in the street, out in the open, just like we saw in this case.
And Julie, you mentioned Walter Wallace Sr. Let's take a listen to a little bit more of what he told CNN.
I want people to know I don't obtain all this violence and looting, you know what I mean? And I don't want to leave a bad scar on my son and my family with this looting and chaos stuff, you know what I mean? With the violence, even with the police department, looting in the stores, burning it. I mean, this where we live, and that's the only community resource we have. If we take all the resource, burn it down, we don't have anything.
You know, Michael, it's sad, and I feel so bad for his dad, right? I mean, you're dealing with the tragedy of losing your son, and then you feel the weight of the world that you've got to speak out, you've got to talk. I don't know how they do it. Part of this, though, is the family apparently said that they called for an ambulance. How did all of this start? What do we know?
Yeah, we do know that they did call for an ambulance because there were some issues in the house, but there were other people who saw what was going on and called the police. That's what the police were responding to. According to the police commissioner, again, she said there were actually a total of 3 calls to the police, 2 earlier in the day, and those came in as domestic disturbance calls. Then there was the 3rd call, which came in just around the time of the incident, and that was a call for a man with a knife. So now they arrived upon the scene, and the attorney, Shaka Johnson, that you saw there in the video, he says that the wife and the mother informed the police that he was having some kind of mental episode. He had bipolar disorder, but we don't know exactly the time frame from when they arrived to when that video that we saw, how long of a time that was. But Johnson says it wouldn't have made much of a difference because, again, they only had one option there. They're not trained mental health professionals, and they only had one option, and that one option can really negatively affect a community. Let's take a listen. All right, we may be having some technical difficulties with that sound, but at the end of the day, he reiterates the fact that they come into the scene, all they have are guns. They don't have any other options. They don't have tasers or anything of that nature. So when they respond to these situations, they can only respond with deadly force. I think we have it now, so let's play that.
The officers who responded at the fatal time in question were apprised that Mr. Wallace was in fact in crisis. They were told that by his wife before the video that has now gone viral began to be recorded. His wife told them he is manic, he's bipolar, he's in crisis. And unfortunately, the officers were not equipped with A, the training, or B, the proper equipment to deal with the person who was experiencing crisis in that moment. I have to wonder, when you have a $730 million budget annually, and you do not put priority on less lethal methods, but every training academy, you give officers a badge, you give them a gun, you give them rounds of ammunition, and you train them how to kill. You train them how to hit center mass and headshots.
Yeah, so Vinny, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about how police departments police the community. These are some of the issues that are being raised by these incidents.
And Julie, we've seen the video, right? And you wonder, what are the options at that point? And how do you deal with someone who's suffering from mental illness, who has a weapon? It's the combination of the two that becomes the problem. And I don't know what the solution is to all of this, but I don't know if police don't show up, if police don't respond, what happens, right? I mean, I don't know if there was, because someone called for a reason. I mean, people called for a reason. Something was happening, and police got there before the ambulance got there. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I don't know if we could employ that many mental health experts that could be on call, ready to get to and respond to a place, and then how are they going to respond if the patient or person has a deadly weapon in their hands?
Correct. And when we stop and think about this and just analyze it, the fact someone is having mental health difficulties, they're also armed with a deadly weapon. So think about it. If this person doesn't have the impulse control to stop coming at police with that knife, who's to say they would have the impulse control to stop coming at other people on the street with that knife, or members of the family with that knife? We can't cast blame on the police for someone's mental health difficulties. I mean, there are a lot of questions to be answered here. Was he on medication? Was he undergoing any treatment? Were other methods tried and failed at that point? But all police know, they're coming to this house and they're being attacked by someone with a deadly weapon. I think there needs to be more focus put on disobeying police commands. With so many of these cases that we're seeing, there's a real problem with people not obeying the commands that police give them. And we have those laws in place to protect people from dying, from being shot. And so I think there needs to be a focus really shifted here. You can't disobey police commands and expect not to have the deadly force being used met with deadly force from the police. So this is really a tough situation. Of course, again, as I said, very, very sad anytime a life is lost. But there can't be this blame at the police who are telling him, drop the knife. And he's refusing and then charging at them. They're trained in the state of Pennsylvania on a 21-foot rule, 21 feet. They're within that range. Someone with a knife can kill them. A taser would not be something that they would deploy at that point. And use of force experts will tell you that. A taser is a weapon used in a planned attack. It's not a reactionary kind of weapon to be used. So there's a lot of people out there playing, armchair quarterback, so to speak, with this one. It's very easy to do that when you could just watch the video. But I think I would encourage everyone to take a step back and wait, because in these cases, you gentlemen know, we've seen so many more details come out later, and one viral video doesn't always tell the complete story.
And the reports we're getting, there's a 911 call, there's body cam video from this that'll give more details, and that is supposed to be released relatively soon. Michael, I'm just looking at the big picture here, and there's a common denominator in a lot of these cases, and it's mental issues. And I'm wondering if the big picture solution is to beef up mental health, right? Figure out a way to treat and get people better so they don't get to the point where police are called and there's something happening. And that's a heavy lift. That's a very heavy lift because there's a lot of issues involved in that. But short of that, when you have the combination of mental illness and weapons, to me, it's never going to end well.
Yeah, Vinny, it's an interesting point you make. And let me tell you, I found out, and it was actually said by the police commissioner there is a pilot program in Philadelphia in effect right now, right? In response to all that's going on around the country, they have a mental health professional on call. They're in the call room. So if a call comes into 911 that involves some kind of mental health issue, they can respond. But again, budgets are a problem. They were not on duty at 4 p.m. on a Monday afternoon. So who knows, Vinny? Had there been tasers and a mental health professional at the scene, would the outcome have been different? Tasers are facing the same problem in the Philadelphia Police Department. The budgets, they're not in the budget. 2,300 officers have tasers, carry them in the field. That's only about a third of the officers on the force. They're trying to get them all outfitted with tasers, but there's not enough money in the budget.
Yep. Well, they've got to find the money. I mean, it's too important. Need to find the money. Michael Ayala, Julie Grant, thank you so much. I appreciate it.